At the beginning of the story, we see a simple boy named Tim living in a beautiful house by the sea with his family. His family was just as lovely as he was. His father was a very calm and composed man. His mother loved him dearly, and his little sister Kit Kat was the heart of the household. His uncle was a bit odd, always a little lost, but had a kind heart. Every year, their family hosted a New Year party, which everyone enjoyed with great enthusiasm. That year was no different. The day after the party, Tim's father called him and said, "Today you've turned 21. Just like my father once called me when I turned 21, I'm calling you today." Tim asked directly, "Is there any special reason for this?" With his usual calm smile, his father said, "There's a secret among the men of our family. We can time travel. I mean, we can only go back in time, not forward." Tim first thought his father was joking, but his father added, "I thought the same when I heard it. Just go to a dark place, clench your fists, and concentrate really hard on the moment in time you want to return to." Tim thought, "If this turns out to be a joke, I'll never forgive you, Dad." But his curiosity was now fully awakened. He went into the closet, clenched his fists, and started thinking about the New Year's party from last night. When he opened his eyes, he saw that he was wearing the same clothes he had on at the party. The same music was playing outside. He went downstairs and saw the same events of the party unfolding again. This time, he didn't repeat the mistakes he made the day before. Then he came back to his present timeline and met his father, saying, "It really works." His father smiled and asked, "So tell me now, what will you do with this power?" Tim replied, "First of all, I want money and fame." His father immediately stopped him and said, "Never do that. Your grandfather thought the same, and in the end, he was left with nothing. I've never seen a very rich man truly happy." But Tim argued, "If I had money, I wouldn't have to work my whole life." His father replied gently, "Never run from work. Look at your uncle. He too thought time travel would solve everything. But was he able to? Everyone knows how miserable he is now." Tim listened carefully. Then his father told him one last time, "Use this power for something truly meaningful, something that actually matters." Tim then thought, "I'll use this power to find love." Sometime later, Tim's little sister Kit Kat's boyfriend Jimmy brought a girl home named Charlotte. She was going to stay with them for 2 months. Charlotte was very beautiful, and Tim immediately fell for her. He tried everything to win her heart, played tennis with her, went out, and spent time together. But when it was time for Charlotte to leave, Tim went to her room and confessed his love. Charlotte said, "I wish you had told me this a month ago. Maybe something could have happened." But that excuse wasn't going to work on Tim. He rushed to the closet and traveled back 1 month. Then he confessed his love to Charlotte again. This time, Charlotte smiled and said, "I wish you had said this yesterday." Hearing this excuse, Tim realized no matter how many times he went back in time, Charlotte would never love him. With a heavy heart, he accepted that time travel couldn't change someone's feelings. The next day, Charlotte left. A few days later, Tim also moved to London to start practicing law and to look for love. There, he started staying with his father's friend, Harry, who was a theater artist. 6 months passed, but no girl came into Tim's life. One day, while out with a friend at a restaurant, he met Mary. They talked for a while, and as the conversation deepened, Tim asked for her number. Mary gave it and said, "I hope we meet again." That night, Tim was very happy. But when he returned home, he saw that Harry was in a bad mood. Harry said, "I had a play tonight, but one actor forgot his lines, and the whole show got ruined. The audience left, and now bad reviews are going to flood in. My career is done." Seeing his uncle like that, Tim decided to help him. He traveled a few hours back in time and reminded the actor of his lines at the right moment. This time, the play went smoothly, and Harry was overjoyed. But on the flip side, Tim was devastated. When he checked his phone, Mary's number wasn't there. Because this time, he had never lived that moment with Mary. He had been busy helping the actor instead. Now Tim was stuck. If he went back again to meet Mary, the play would flop. Both things were happening at the same time, and he couldn't be at 2 places. He had no contact for Mary. One day, while reading the newspaper, he remembered that Mary liked Kate Moss and worked at an art gallery. He went to that gallery and waited every day for a week. Finally, after a week, Mary came. But when Tim tried to talk to her, she didn't recognize him. For her, it was their first meeting, but for Tim, it was the second. He casually invited Mary and her friend for coffee, and they agreed. At the coffee table, Tim asked Mary, "Do you have a boyfriend?" Mary smiled and said, "Just started dating someone a week ago." Tim was shocked and said, "That's not possible." Mary found the question strange. As the conversation progressed, Mary's boyfriend Rupert arrived. Tim wasn't happy, but he pretended to act normal and asked, "Where did you two meet?" Mary said, "At a boring party." "And where was this party?" Tim asked. Mary's friend replied, "At my house." Tim, trying not to seem desperate, asked for the address. Both of them found it a bit odd, but Tim covered up by saying he liked knowing things in detail. The friend gave him the address. Tim immediately went back in time to that party. When he reached, the party was already happening, but Rupert hadn't arrived yet. Mary was standing alone in a corner, looking a bit bored. Tim approached her and started talking about all the things she liked. For Mary, it was their first meeting. For Tim, it was his third. He said, I love Kate Moss too. And I know you're bored at this party. Mary was surprised but impressed. She agreed when he asked her to leave the party for a while. While they left, poor Rupert was just entering the party, unaware that the girl who could have been his girlfriend was already gone with someone else. This time, Tim changed everything. After dinner, he dropped Mary home. Their closeness started to grow. But things didn't go exactly as Tim imagined, so he thought, let's try one more time. He went back again and kept reliving that night until everything was absolutely perfect. This time, he impressed Mary completely. They started calling each other every day, and over time, their love grew stronger. Tim began to feel that Mary was the one, the girl he could spend his entire life with. After some time, Tim proposed to Mary for marriage, and without any hesitation, she said yes. Tim brought Mary home to meet his family. Everyone liked her very much. While they were all sitting at the dinner table, Tim announced, "We've decided to get married." Hearing this, a wave of joy swept across the room. Tim also shared another piece of news. He was going to be a father. Well, the wedding hadn't happened yet, but he was going to be a father first. The day of the wedding arrived, and many things went wrong. Sudden rain, speech glitches, and small mishaps. Personally, these things didn't bother Tim much, but he wanted Mary to have her dream wedding. That's why he kept time traveling again and again, fixing every little thing until everything became perfect. And finally, the wedding was complete. After the wedding, Tim and Mary had a daughter. They loved her dearly. Life was going really well for Tim, and he had started using time travel less and less. He didn't need to fix anything anymore, because everything in his life felt perfect. One day, it was his daughter Posey's birthday. The whole family had gathered at their new house, but Kit Kat, Tim's younger sister, hadn't arrived yet. When Tim saw her boyfriend Jimmy instead, he was surprised. Tim asked, "Where's Kit Kat?" With a sad face, Jimmy said, "She had been drinking. We had a fight, and she drove off in the car. I don't know where she went." Tim became anxious, and soon after, he found out that Kit Kat had met with an accident. Her face had bruises and scars. For the first time, Tim realized he had been so busy with his own life that he hadn't paid attention to his sister's pain. Kit Kat was broken from the inside. Every relationship in her life had only brought her down. She had fallen into depression and had begun drinking heavily. After some time, Kit Kat began to heal. Tim held her hand and said, "You are just as important to me as my wife is." He even shared his secret with Kit Kat, that he could time travel. He told her this to win back her trust. He said, "If there's anything in the past you want to change, I can change it. I've done it many times for myself." He decided he would give his sister a new chance. He held her hand and said, "Come with me." They both went into the darkness behind the closet. Kit Kat still thought it was some kind of joke, but Tim had made a different kind of decision that day. Holding her hand, he took her back in time, to that same New Year's Eve party. He whispered, "This is the night that changed your life." Kit Kat looked confused. Her face showed unease, but she didn't let go of Tim's hand. They stood at the entrance of the party. Loud music was playing. People were dancing. After a while, Jimmy showed up, behaving as flirty and careless as ever. They saw him flirting with another girl. At first, Kit Kat looked confused, but then anger appeared on her face. She walked straight up to Jimmy and, without saying a word, slapped him hard across the face. Jimmy was stunned. He didn't understand why he got slapped. Kit Kat stared at him for a few seconds, but said nothing. From the look on her face, it was clear that things were becoming clearer in her mind. With that one slap, she had buried all her old feelings. Meanwhile, Tim realized that Kit Kat was finally ready to move on from that relationship. Now that she had let Jimmy go, her future had changed too. After some time, they returned to the present. Tim noticed Kit Kat looked very calm. There was a peace in her eyes. Now she was with one of Tim's close friends, Jay, a genuinely good guy. Tim saw that his sister was truly happy now. Tim was filled with joy, knowing he had finally fixed his sister's life. But that joy didn't last long. When Tim went to check on his daughter Posey, he saw that she wasn't there anymore. Instead, there was a boy, a son he had never seen before. His heart sank. He realized that by going back in time to change Kit Kat's life before Posey was born, he had altered things so drastically that Posey was never born. In her place, a son was born. Someone he didn't know, someone he hadn't shared any moments with. Panic spread across Tim's face. He immediately ran to Mary and asked, "Where is Posey?" Hearing that name, Mary seemed confused. She had no memory of a daughter named Posey. This broke Tim completely. He wondered how he could get her back. He rushed to his father for advice. His father explained, "Son, I should have told you earlier. If you go back to a time before your child is born and change anything, your child changes too. Their DNA, their identity, everything. This is the biggest risk of time travel." This hit Tim like a rock. Posey was a huge part of his life. Her very existence was his joy. That's when Tim decided, to change Kit Kat's life, he'd have to find another way. And this time, he wouldn't use time travel. He let things happen the way they were meant to. Kit Kat's car accident happened again. Tim and Mary went to visit her in the hospital. But this time, Tim was calm. He knew his sister's life was now back on track. He saw that Kit Kat's love for Jay was growing. Real, honest love. In time, the two fell in love. Jay gave Kit Kat the emotional support she had always needed. Tim realized that some relationships need time to heal. Shortcuts might change the destination, but the journey still has to be lived. Time passed, and Tim and Mary had another child, a son. Now they had two lovely children, Posey and her little brother. Tim's family was complete. Happiness was everywhere. But life is never perfect. One day, Tim found out that his father had cancer. He only had a few weeks left to live. Tim was shattered. He rushed to his father and asked, "Is there anything we can change?" His father smiled and said, "I can't quit smoking, son. It's too hard for me. And honestly, it's because of smoking that you and your sister even exist. Your mom fell for me because she loved the way I smoked with style. If we change that, everything changes." Tim understood. Sometimes, habits, mistakes, and even pain can lead to beautiful stories. His father shared one more secret. "I live every day twice. Once like a normal person, full of stress and routine, and then I go back in time and live the same day with peace and love. Try it." In that sense, I've lived for at least 200 years. Tim started doing the same. He lived every day twice. First like a normal person, and then again with complete joy. Every moment began to feel like a dream. But one day arrived. The day he didn't want to live again. The day his father died. That day was awful. Mary comforted him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Tim knew he could go back and see his father one last time, and he did. Whenever he felt down, he'd travel back to walk with his father by the sea and talk. He'd relive those moments with him. Then one day, Mary suddenly said, "Tim, I want another baby." Tim went silent. The thought hit him. If they had another child, he would never be able to go back and meet his father again. He hid his emotions and simply said, "Okay." Mary got pregnant, and Tim made a final decision. He would go back one last time to see his father. He traveled back, looked into his father's eyes, and said, "This is the last time. I won't be able to come back again." His father held his hand and said, "Come with me. Let's go back to your childhood. If we don't change anything, nothing will go wrong." They both walked to the beach where little Tim was playing. Together, they built a sandcastle and played in the waves. In that moment, there was nothing but love, so much love. That moment was timeless. Then Tim returned to the present, and from that day forward, he never time traveled again. He started living every day as a gift. He found joy in every little thing. A sip of tea, an old tune, Posey's drawings, the sparkle in Mary's eyes. Everything felt priceless. And with that, Tim's story came to an end. A man who had power over time, but in the end, found true happiness only by embracing time as it was. If you had such a superpower, what would you go back and change? Tell us in the comments.